my bread alone. Yeah, this word got food in it. Stepping on the devil dome, you should see the bruise in it. Backing out the scripts, told a demon to stand down. Go against the Most High, we gon' see how it pan out. The Father gave me hope, fill me with the ghosts. Now they hate it when I glow. Joseph with the coat, looking for their fruit, but they ain't got no cantaloupe. The Messiah over Lio, you can't be a fan of both. Can't serve two masters. Bread of heaven with the living water, yeah, serving up a truth platter. We ain't idolizing no folly, now we setting up a new standard. When Christ touched down, make the whole earth shake like Bruce Banner. Yeah, bringing them troops to ya. End times getting spookier, warfare getting nuclear, mankind getting goofier. They intoxicated with a wine, damn, she done roofied them. I'm checking every word, spirit doctrine like a proofreader. I hate these Nicolatans, hate these graven idols, man, I hate these flipping pagans. Try to play my father and I hate these imitations. Screaming out Hosanna, we escape that simulation. Better flee to me, vote these or else that lake is where you layin'. Great is he inside of me, casting out this net like I was by the Sea of Galilee. Harvest gon' be plenty, but the laborers are few. Matthew 17 and 20, there ain't nothing we can't do. I can't be no lukewarm, fringes with the blue on. Devil wanna deal, but I told him this ain't Groupon. Praise to the Almighty, you know we gon' sing a new song. Hail the King of King, the ultra low, no Jimmy Neutron. If you keep his laws and his commands, then we can fellowship. I don't get with Pharisees and I don't rock with Hellenists. I am praising man, cause only Father get my reverence. I'm swimming in the word, it got me feeling like a yellowfin. Yeah, big stepper, Mr. Demon Chin Checker, trying to hear that well done, cause I feel that displeasure. Father pouring out the wrath, and he got a big measure. If it ain't about the kingdom, then I don't give a six letter. You got faith in the Messiah, you got power. I was clean up in that blood just like a shower. Isaiah 5, you were the vine that came on sour, but now we stand and giving glory in this hour. Yeah, we breaking them curses, fleeing the ways of the serpent. Follow his word and pray for discernment, cause they want us laying in hearses. We gotta rise up, raise and resurface, choose life and stay in your purpose. The price was paid like a merchant, through Christ who came as a servant. See, the kingdom is ready to bag, but yet somehow they chasing a Birkin. After this you ain't getting a chance, while you living you can't better search him. Gotta call on his name like his urchin, never knowing that day is emerging. So repent at the weight of perversions, judgment coming, that thing is for certain. Let's go.
Shalawam family, it's your brother Yasharahla from the House of Bread, and I have to give all praises, all glory, and all honor to the Most High God, whose name is Yahawaah. Of course I do so in the name of his only begotten Son, Hamashiach, Yahawashi, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Make sure you make your way over to HIBofficialZion.com and get you a copy of the HIB, the Hebrew Israelite Bible. Shalawam, Yasharahla.
The Hebrew Israelite Bible is the first of its kind, restoring the names of persons, places, and things in the ancient Hebrew dialect, colloquially referred to amongst the Israelite community as the Lashawan Quadash. Most importantly, it preserves the Most High's name YAHAWAH in the Paleo-Hebrew script. The Hebrew Israelite Bible comes complete with all 80 books found in the 1611 King James Version Bible, including the Apocrypha.
All right, Shalawam family. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, all glory, and all honor to the Most High God, whose name is Yahawaah. Of course, I do so in the name of his only begotten Son, Hamashiach, Yahawashi, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. It's your brother Yasharahla, joined by the good brother Yasharahla. We are the House of Bread. Right. Before we dive into the lesson, family, make sure everyone come in, hit the like button, share the video, super chat if it's on your heart. And we're going to dive into this topic in just a bit. Do want to say happy Juneteenth. Again, happy Juneteenth. All praise to the Most High. We not on the actual plantations anymore, right? However, we're still not free, right? We still need liberation. We still need to be saved as a people. The chains have been removed from our ankles and our wrists. But for a lot of our people, the mental shackles still remain, right? The mental shackles still remain. But as the scriptures tell us, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free, right? It doesn't say that it's going to set you free, it's going to make you free, right? And that freedom comes through knowing who we are, who we belong to, and what's required of us, right? With that said, in celebration of Juneteenth, make your way over to hibofficialzion.com and use code Juneteenth, right? Use code Juneteenth for $19 off your order, right? Let me actually go ahead and share my screen real quick. Share screen, right? You can make your way over to hibofficialzion.com. The link is in the description, right? Make your purchase of the HIB, the Hebrew Israelite Bible. And again, use code Juneteenth at checkout for $19 off your order, right? Make sure that you brothers and sisters are following us here on Instagram, right? House of Bread Camp _ in between each word. Link is in the description. Make sure you also subscribe. You're following the brother Mayash's tassel page, Prestige Way Designs, with an _ in between each word. Link is in the description as well. And then tap in with your boy at Gedalia _Ariala for the Bust Down Tassels, right? Yeah, part of us getting delivered, part of us becoming free, is us actually doing the things that the Most High God required of us. And doing those things is keeping the commandments, right? The commandments that are spelled out, that are prescribed for us in the Torah, that's what we must follow, right? So tap in with myself and the brother Mayash with our tassel pages, all right? Anything else? Anything else we need to plug out?
Nah, not right now.
If you need a calendar, a feast day calendar, link is in the description for our calendar, right? We are currently in the 4th month now. All praise to the Most High. Right, we're in the 4th month. It's not we don't have any high holy days until the month of September, where we'll be entering into the 7th month. So you have the Feast of Trumpets, you got the Feast of Tabernacles, you got the Day of Atonement, right? These are all important high holy days. All praise to the Most High. We have science, right? We have technology that we're able to actually track out and set the calendar in advance, right? Back in the day, when we was in our land, we actually used to have to observe the moon, right, to know when these appointed times are, right? So now brothers and sisters don't have excuses, right? You need to take off for work, right? You have a calendar to be able to plan accordingly, right? Planning is of the utmost importance, all right? Before we dive into the topic, I think I want to open up the chat for questions. Any questions brothers and sisters may have, by all means, please post your questions in the chat, and we'll dive into them. Any questions in the chat? All right. Lord willing, I haven't posted it yet, but Lord willing, this Sunday, we'll be doing a Bible Q&A, and with a little bit of smoke, if it presents itself, right? But tap in. Make sure you subscribe to House of Bread. Make sure you subscribe to YAHAWAH here on Instagram, on YouTube, right? Make sure you hit the bell notification so that you get notified whenever we go live and post any videos. All praise to the Most High, good brother Nev. Right. But again, any questions in the chat? Any questions, brothers and sisters may have concerning the scripts? Hit your question in the chat, and we'll address it. Okay, so brother Oil Can Sean says, question: why Exodus 6:3 says they did not know the name of Yahawah? Good question, right? So Let me get a couple precepts real quick. All right, so boom, watch this. I got you. Judgment. Let's get that real quick.
Which one?
Exodus 6 and 3. Right. Just pulling up the scripture real quick, and we're gonna dive into it. Good question. Exodus 6 and 3.
You want to bring it up or just go in?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up in a second. Hold on.
Down.
All right, good question, Brother Sean. All right, bring that out.
Con, this is Exodus chapter 6 and verse 3. And I appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob by the name of God Almighty, but by my name, Jehovah, was I not known to them. And I have also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan and the land of their pilgrimage, wherein they were strangers.
All right, so people will read this verse and they'll say, man, Abraham didn't know the Most High God's name, right? Isaac, Jacob, they did not know the Most High God's name. And seemingly, when you just read the paper, it seems like that's what's going on, right? Let's get the book of Psalm chapter 9 and verse 16.
This is Psalm chapter 9, verse 16. The Lord is known by the judgment which he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands.
Right. So the Most High God Yahawah, he's known in his judgments, right? So, like, for instance, when we look at the children of Israel, right? We sojourned in Egypt. We came out, right, in a numerable multitude, and the fear and dread of the Most High God's name was on the heathen. Example, when we got to the land and the spies were sent to Jericho to spy out the land, they were met by who? They were met by Rahab, right? So let's get the Rahab. Right. Let me see what I want to get. Let me see how to find this account, right? So when we came into the land, right, Rahab, she heard what the Most High had did for us, right? And the reason why we know that Exodus 6 and 3, right, literally doesn't mean that they did not know the Most High God's name, right? And that is talking about the judgment that he executes, is because if you go to Genesis 4, which is before Abraham, right? Take a look here at Genesis chapter 4 and verse, right? Chapter 4, right? Last verse, right? I'll read from verse 25. It says, and Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth, for God said, she hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. And Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord, right? If we pull this up in the blue letter, right, and look at the actual text, it says basham YAHAWAH, right? They called on the name of Yahawah, right? Most High God. So they were calling on his name all the way back before the flood. Right? Are we to believe that they weren't calling on his name afterwards? No, right? The answer is that the Most High God, he is known in his judgment, right? And when we came out of the land of Egypt, that was a great judgment that the Most High God reigned on our enemies, on the Egyptians, right? If you look back here, Psalm 9 and 16, it says, he's known by the judgment which he executed, though wicked is snared in the work of his own hands, right? So when we actually look at 1 for instance, Exodus in the plagues that were brought upon Egypt. All of these plagues were to destroy the gods of Egypt, right? Think about the flies, right? The Egyptians used to actually have this, they had like this, I guess, regard for the fly, because a fly is very persistent, right? A fly can just be annoying you in your face and you swat it away, the fly keep coming, right? So when look at one of the plagues, the Most High God brought all these flies on Egypt, right? All the frogs, right? The Nile turned it into blood, right? Like they literally worshiped the Nile River, right? They personified a lot of natural occurrences. For instance, the Nile overflowing its banks and depositing silt for the cultivation of food. That was known as Hapi, right? Hapi was a god that they worshipped, right? And again, it was the personification of the Nile bringing life. Well, when the Most High God smote the Nile with blood, he essentially killed Hapi, right? He brought war upon. He made war against the gods of Egypt, right? So again, this is the works of their own hand. They make these idols, right? And they have these gods that they worship. But in all actuality, the Most High God showed that he was the Most High God, that he was the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and right, that guy, right? He's the creator of all things. So he literally brought death to the Egyptian gods through the plagues in those judgments, right? And we have something known as the Ipuwer Papyrus, right? The Ipuwer Papyrus literally attests to these plagues that the Bible talks about. There's tons of archaeology that substantiates the Exodus, but of course, the mainstream narrative and mainstream scholars, they reject the Exodus because they're looking in all the wrong places. They're looking in the wrong dynasty. They're looking in the wrong time frame. So there's a lot when you actually do some study in the Exodus and a lot of the archaeology that supports it, right? It's blatantly there. But that's how the Most High God is known. He's known in his judgment. So, all right. So the brother Yashar, he said, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, but when the KJV states name in Hebrew means shum, and shum means reputation, depending on the context and how the word name is used. You are correct, right? The word for name in Hebrew, shum, right? It literally means like your actual name, but think about what comes with your name, right? You have a reputation. Right? You hear the name Kobe, and what do you think of? You think of Mamba mentality, right? You think of someone who has a lot of dog in him, someone who has a lot of grit and tenacity, right? We know who Kobe is, we know his name, but we also know his reputation. His reputation is attached to his name, right? The Most High God's reputation, right, when he revealed himself to Abraham, right, to Isaac, to Jacob. Most High didn't show them outrageously miraculous, insane works, right, insane judgments, right. The scripture talks about how Abraham believed God and was appointed to him as righteousness, right, and that his faith was made perfect through his actions, through his works. So yes, you got Abraham. Think about Abraham. Abraham grew up in a city named Ur, right, in Mesopotamia, around the region of Babylon, where you have a bunch of paganism. You look at his father, right, Terah. Terah worshipped idols. Before the Most High God revealed himself to Abraham, one could say that Abraham worshipped idols, right? But he revealed himself to Abraham. Abraham believed him, right? And when we looked before Abraham even comes into the land of Canaan, right? Him and his father, Lot, and his wife, they leave Ur. They go to a city named Haran, right? Now he has a brother named Haran, an older brother named Haran. So you got Terah, he has Haran, Abram, and Nahor, right? When you read, it says that that Haran died. Haran is the father of Lot. Terah takes Abraham, at the time it was Abram, Sarah, at the time she was Sarai, and Lot. And the core is left in Ur. They go to a city named Haran. Now, I would imagine that the reason why Terah named him Haran is because, again, they were pagans, and they worshipped a moon goddess named, I believe her name was Sin, right? And so she was worshipped in Ur, but she was also worshipped in Haran, the city named Haran, which literally had her main cult there. So that's where they went to travel. The Most High God revealed himself to him, and then he left after his father died and went into the land of Canaan, right? But again, just thinking about our forefathers, where they were, right? Sometimes we got to try to step back and think and put ourselves in their shoes, right? Put ourselves in their world, right? And that's why it's important to study history, because you get a good understanding and a better understanding of different customs, right, that were going on. And of course, Abraham, right, he's the father of the faith. He believed the Most High, and the Most High revealed himself to him. And we read the scripture says that Abraham kept God's law, statutes, commandments, that he did not sin, right? And of course, he passed that on to Isaac. Isaac passed that on to Jacob and Esau. Esau clearly didn't listen, didn't follow the instructions, and we know how everything else played out. But again, the Most High God is known in his judgments. Good question, Brother Sean. Any other questions? You got something?
Yeah, I was about to say you could just go into Proverbs 22 and verse 1 as well.
Proverbs 22 and 1?
Yeah. All right. Just to plainly hammer in.
Oh, it's a good one.
Okay. It says, God, a good name is rather to be chosen, right? And that same word right there, like you said, going into that word, name, means literally name, but we see how it's used right here in this context. It's talking about a report, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, again, you being known by your reputation, right? That comes with your name, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving, right? And just to dispel, right? That's a good proverb right there, because that dispels a lot of foolishness that goes on today. A lot of people, there's this saying that's being passed around. All publicity is good publicity, right?
Yeah.
But clearly it ain't. But that's the times when how evil we are, right? I mean, how evil this world is. It's like, that's all people care about is cloud, or having all eyes on them.
Mm-hmm. Think about someone like, to that point, think about Adrian Broner, right?
Right.
I love AB. You know what I mean? AB, he's a great fighter. You know what I mean? He's clearly needs to stop drinking.
Right.
And when you understand how boxing works, boxing is it's a dangerous sport. You don't play boxing, and it's also a cutthroat business. So we look at right now, you got the PBC, Al Heyman. Mayweather had to sue him because he didn't get all his money, right? AB has gone on record talking about how he hasn't gotten his money, and how Al would hold on to his money and would like give him money over time. And AB is let's be honest, he's a little foolish, right? The scriptures say that a fool and his money shall soon part. And you know what I mean, AB finds himself pretty down bad, and all praise to the Most High that he has an opportunity to help feed his family with this streaming shit. But now we know AB for his shenanigans. We know AB for his hijinks, right? Him just being a fool, playing the fool. That's his name. That's attached to his name, right? Again, going back to the example of like Kobe Bryant. You know Kobe Bryant for being real austere, being about his business. We think of Mamba mentality. You think of someone like right now we're looking at Jalen Brunson, the New York Knicks winning a championship for the first time in 53 years, right?
All right.
Jalen Brunson people hear his name. Oh, he's not a 1A guy. Oh, he's not an XYZ. Right? Yeah, he's a good player, but he's not a superstar. And now, because of what he's done, now everyone knows that, oh yeah, he's that guy. Jalen Brunson is now getting, outside of Knicks fans, he's now getting the respect that he deserves based off of the work that he put in, right? Most High God, his name, he has a literal name, but again, the reputation attached to that name, that's important. Hammer, do the Lord call the law his name? I don't know what you're talking about. Your question is, it's hard for me to understand. Try rewording that. Any other questions? And Lord, well, this won't be too long of a lesson today, family. No other questions? All right. So let's dive into the topic, family. So you can see the title of today's video lesson is Hebrew Israelites and the Romanticization of Brotherly Love. Right? So you see here on the thumbnail, right, we got brothers, right, showing love to each other. But again, when we look at what goes on in this community, right, sisters don't get that same type of love, right? We as men are brothers to the sisters in the nation of Israel, right? So we have to show them brotherly love, right? And they should in turn show us sisterly/brotherly love, right? And when you understand the Hebrew language, right, and how the Hebrew language, similar to Spanish, similar to languages like French, is a male dominant language, right? Male is the default, right? We are a patriarchal society, right? I know that's a buzzword, right? The word patriarchy. Oh, the patriarchy, right? I've done a lot of maturing over my time of being here in the truth. There's certain phrases, certain words that I don't necessarily, not that I don't agree, but I just don't like certain terms. Like, I'll give you an example. The term toxic masculinity, that term gets thrown around a lot, right? And a lot of times it's used when a man is just doing what a man's supposed to do, right? Now we live in this world where sisters say, "Oh, what?" I saw a video earlier today. Sisters like, "What happened to men just allowing their women to win the argument? You niggas gonna argue," and they called it sassy, right? That word gets thrown around a lot, right? Because again, this concept of masculinity. Can I be honest with y'all? There are a lot of men who can be toxic. So the term toxic masculinity is a real thing, right? Its application at times is very cheapened and, again, just sensationalized, right? But if I'm being honest with y'all, when I look in the Hebrew Israelite community, being someone inside of the community, there's a lot of so-called toxic masculinity within the Hebrew Israelite community. And the root of that toxic masculinity is this ideal, this concept, this romanticized concept of brotherly love, right? Now, why do I say that, right? Why do I say that brotherly love, this concept of brotherly love, is romanticized? Am I saying that brothers should not show love to one another? I'm not saying that at all. We are supposed to. We are required. We have to love each other. And what we're going to do is we're going to dive into what that looks like, right? So I just wanted to pull up the term romanticization, right? And let's just get a definition of it, right? So it says romanticization is the act of viewing or portraying someone or something in an idealized, unrealistic light, often making it seem far more attractive, desirable, or heroic than it is in reality. right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to unpack there, right?
Okay.
A lot to unpack there. Let's see what AI is talking about, right? The good, elevating everyday life. Often just wearing rose-colored glasses. Romanticization can be healthy. Can be a healthy coping mechanism. Okay. It says mindset. It encourages individuals to find beauty, meaning, and gratitude in mundane tasks. All right, we'll skip that. The trap of unrealistic expectations. Right. Regardless, right. We're gonna drop this, right? However, right. Just going back to this definition of the term romanticization, right? Again, portraying someone or something in an idealized and unrealistic light. Okay. Funny enough, I had someone sent me a video of a brother that I do not like. Right, I do not like this person at all. Right, he's an individual within the Hebrew Israelite community. Don't like the nigga worth shit. Right? Do I love him? Yes, I love him because I have to love him. Right? We have to love each other. Right? We have requirements. We have expectations. Right? We have to love each other. Now, we're going to look at what love is and what love means, right? Because that's what we have to quantify, right? Just because everyone's not buddy or chummy, right? Everyone's not so-called friends within the Hebrew Israelite community does not mean that people who don't like each other hate each other.
Right.
For the record, I do not hate Alazar. I do not hate Deacon. I do not hate any brother that I've gotten into any type of public back and forth or anything like that. I don't hate them brothers. I actually love those brothers, right? And this is why we're going to have to define what love is.
Right.
Because brotherly love is just love between brothers, between siblings. Actually, it's not just between brothers, it's between siblings. And that's what we have to understand, right? Hebrew Israelites have to understand that you have to show brotherly love to all of your siblings, brothers and sisters, right? We have to show that love one to another, right? So, how is brotherly love romanticized in the Hebrew Israelite community, right? People say, I hear all the time, oh man, oh, where's the love? Where the love? Oh, we got a brotherly love. We hear swelling words like, these little terms and sayings like brotherhood over breakdown. Yeah, I agree with that, right? And then we have these other terms like brotherhood is the final chamber. And all of that, as an individual within the community, I've been in the Hebrew Israelite community since fall of 2008 and 18. I'm coming up on my 8th year in the truth, and I've seen a lot of stuff transpire. Right, some of you brothers and sisters are new to the faith, right? Don't get caught up in the romanticization of brotherly love, because that term is used as a smokescreen a lot of times to avoid accountability, right? And again, it's just painted as like this beautiful ideal of everyone holding hands and being kumbaya. Okay, and I'm gonna let you guys know that's unrealistic. It's unrealistic, right? Shout out to the sister Kai. She says niggas love their brothers more than their own wives at times, and that's a fact.
A fact.
Again, we went. What are we going to? What was it, last week or the week before last?
Yeah,
right?
2 weeks ago.
Right. We went into it. Let's go. Right. We went into. Oh, it was on.
How to love your wife.
Watch this. Right. We went into this lesson 2 weeks ago. Right. Being a good husband 101. How to be a biblically good husband. right? And one of the scriptures that we went into was in the book of Tobit, where Tobias is praying, right, before he takes his wife. And he says, I take not my sister for lust. If you are a Hebrew Israelite, right, if you're an Israelite man and you're married to an Israelite woman, that woman is your sister, right? And again, not no weird incest type shit. So please don't get simple, right? We have to look at every sister within our nation as that, our sisters. Okay? So again, Hebrew Israelites will romanticize this concept of brotherly love. And it's problematic for several reasons, because it's used as a smoke screen to avoid accountability, right? Let's get First Thessalonians chapter 4. I want to get it in the ESV, and we'll just start from the top. Run through it.
First Thessalonians 4. You said 5?
4 and 1.
All right. First Thessalonians chapter 4 from the top.
You got the ESV?
Oh yeah, Salakia. Hold on. Later. ESV. This is the ESV. Finally, then, brothers, we ask and urge you in Hamashiach Yahawashi, that as you received from us how you ought to walk and to please God, just as you are doing, that you do so more and more. For you know what instructions we gave you through Hamashiach Yahawashi. For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you abstain from sexual immorality.
So let's slow down and let's unpack this, right? Again, what is the way in which we should walk, right? The way in which we should walk is what has been prescribed to us, right? Again, going back to Abraham. Abraham was told to leave his family, right? To leave his home, and to go to a place that I'll show you. Just basically, God sent Abraham just to go wander aimlessly, right? I'm gonna just leave, and I'm gonna show you a place, right? And Abraham walked in the way in which the Most High God told him. Okay, us as the inheritors of the promises of Abraham that were passed down to Isaac, passed down to Jacob, those promises are contingent upon us walking as our fathers walked, who follow God's commandments, who follow God's word. And what we got to understand is that before the Israelites had the Torah, had the law codified in writing, we can see the law being echoed and being kept by the patriarchs all throughout the scriptures, right? When we read, for instance, the book of Genesis, it says that Abraham kept my laws, my statutes, and my commandments, right? It wasn't written down, but again, the Most High God gave him commands, he followed, right? So coming back here to First Thessalonians, this is the way in which we should walk, following those instructions, right? What was prescribed to us, keeping the law, statutes, commandments. Part of that is abstaining from sexual immorality. What is sexual immorality? Fornication, right? Adultery, right? All these things are spelled out of the don'ts in the book of Leviticus, right? Leviticus 18 specifically, right? Let's read on.
For Salakia, again, that you abstain from sexual immorality, that each one of you know how to control his own body in holiness and honor, not in the passion of lust like the Gentiles who do not know God.
Right. So again, Paul is writing to the church at Thessalonica, right, who are saints. These are Israelites, right? Whether they were Jews born within the faith, or Israelites who were raised in the Greco-Roman society, right? The prodigal sons, so to speak. So he's saying, don't walk in the passion of lust like the Gentiles that you're amongst do. They don't know God, right? But we know God, right? And we're going to go into what it means to know God, right? And what it means to love God, right? Read on.
Con. Verse 6, that no one transgress and wrong his brother in this matter.
Right. So how could you transgress and wrong your brother in this manner? By trying to get with his wife. Stick with his wife. Right? That would be adultery. That would be fornication. Right? Read on.
Con. Shalakia. Transgress your brother. Where was I at?
Because the Lord. Verse 6.
Con, that no one transgresses brother in this matter, because the Lord is an avenger in all these things.
Uh-huh.
As we told you beforehand and solemnly warned you.
Uh-huh.
For God has
So
not
warn you, right? So Paul is writing to this church and he's giving them instructions based upon what the Torah says, right? And he's warning them against the punishments for breaking these things, right? Again, when we look at the Torah has, right, the do's and the don'ts, right? The commandments, but then it also has statutes and judgments. For instance, if I stole $100 from the brother Mayash, according to the law, the judgment is that I must restore what I stole plus a fifth part or 20%. So if I stole $100 from him, I have to pay him back $120. Okay? But if a brother commits adultery with another man's wife or somehow fornicates some other way with another man's wife, that's punishable by death, right? The wages of sin is death. So warning brothers, warning our people, warning sisters about what comes of sin, and of course about certain sins, right? That in itself is love, right? And this is where accountability comes in. What Paul is doing is he's holding the brothers and sisters at this church accountable, right? Read on.
Count verse 7. For God has not called us for impurity, but in holiness.
Come on.
Therefore, whoever disregards this disregards not man, but God, who gives his Holy Spirit to you.
Right. So again, this is not just Paul pulling this out of his ass, right? These are the commandments of God, right? Read on.
Verse 9. Now concerning brotherly love, you have no need for anyone to write to you. For you yourselves have been taught by God to love one another.
Okay, so we're going to put a pin in this, right? Right? Where did God command us to love one another? Leviticus 19 and 17, right? And we'll get to that in a second, right? Before we do that, let's go to First John chapter 2, right? And then we're going to go to First John 3. First John 2, and actually just start from the top.
Con. First John 2 from the top. My little children, these things write I unto you, that ye sin not. And if any man sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Hamashiach Yahawashi, the righteous.
So now, there's balance to this, right? There's balance to this, because John also says if a brother commits a sin unto death, he says don't pray for him. But he says if a brother commits a sin that is not unto death, pray for him, right? And what I have seen in the Hebrew Israelite community over the last year and a half, right, is people not understanding the nuance of this, right? Yes, we should pray for brothers. But if brothers are out here committing sins unto death, right, as teachers and leaders, right, what happens is people say, "Oh, grace." They wave, "Oh, brotherhood's the final chamber," because and all this other nonsense, right? Because they are too pussy. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Too pussy to hold their brothers who they claim to love accountable. We have to hold each other accountable, right? For instance, going back to the concept of the Torah, right, and how it has commandments, do's and don'ts, it has judgments for transgressions, things of that nature. Again, if a brother steals something, right, the Torah has a judgment. If a brother commits adultery, if a brother rapes a sister, right, if a brother murders someone, what's supposed to happen? They're supposed to get put to death, right? And when we read the Torah, it says to put evil out of Israel. Evil is the opposite of love. So getting rid of evil is love. I remember there was a clip. Shanyam-ishar on his podcast Club Shay Shay, right? He was having a conversation with what's his face? Nigga with the tattoos.
Blueface.
Huh?
Blueface?
No, rapper from he's from Louisiana. What's that nigga name? Kevin Gates.
Oh,
Right?
Come.
And Kevin Gates was talking about, listen, if a nigga, right, is a PDF file, basically I'm unsubscribing him from life, right? The clip said your soul don't like your body will help you free it, right? Let me tell you something. If I find a pedophile, right, I am going to enjoy, right, reacquainting that individual with his maker, okay? Because standing against evil is love.
Right.
Imagine if your child, your sister, your cousin, your mother, anyone that, and here's the thing, we live in a world where, guess what? This is not just something that happens to women, it happens to men too, right? Imagine someone that you love and care about is harmed in such a manner. Your love for that individual is going to fuel you to do what needs to get done, right? So when we look at situations within the Hebrew Israelite community, right, when we have all these scandals and things of that nature, right, and it's clear evil, right, and it's clear just blatant sins unto death, we got Israelites talking about, oh, we gotta show brotherly love, man.
Right.
Nigga, hold on. Let's be real. If we were in our land and someone committed a capital offense, it would be evil of us to not execute the judgment of the Lord. That would be evil, right?
That
go ahead.
That wouldn't be brotherly love, because again, the reason why we execute those types of judgments is to, protect the rest of us, and it's protecting the rest of us by putting the fear of God in us to not want to do that to each other,
and protecting the victim, right? We live in a world where people love to blame victims, right? And like my quick 2 cents about the most recent scandal with Deacon and his estranged wife, right? Her sharing her story and the things that she's gone through, right? I've had conversations. I've heard people's perspectives on on the situation, right? I've heard people say, "Oh, the sister is stupid for doing some of the things that she has shared in her testimony." And I'll be honest with you, I don't think the sister is stupid. I think at best she may have been naive in many instances. However, here lies the problem. There's this thing in the world called power dynamics.
Right. Right.
So, for instance, I've been in management positions in my professional life, and every year we got to go through trainings like sexual harassment trainings, things of that nature, right? And in those trainings, you learn about, again, these power dynamics, right? If I'm a boss and I'm advancing on one of my female coworkers, right, that power dynamic and that difference in power really can put that female employee in a really bad situation, right? Where she feels like if she does not comply, she's going to have some type of retaliation and things of that nature. And that happens within the Hebrew Israelite community, right? All the a bunch of times, right? There have been no contact orders put out, right, on brothers, on sisters, right, in many different times, right? And over the past couple of years, right, especially the light what happened with the whole Al-Azhar situation, right? My wife being best friends with the sister, with his estranged wife, Al-Azhar would threaten her with no contact orders, right? Threaten that he would make me give my wife an order to not have any contact with her. And what that does is it isolates sisters, right? It isolates sisters, and it is intentional, it's on purpose, right? Why? Because they don't want sisters talking to each other about their trauma and the things that they've gone through, right? Because they don't want it to be revealed the evil shit that niggas have been doing, right? That's a problem. But you got niggas saying mercy, 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 brotherly love, brotherly love, brotherly love, right? For niggas who are abusing their wives in some of the most heinous ways, right? And that's a problem because what you're demonstrating is that you don't love your sisters. It's just the reality of the situation, right? I can recall a time where, again, there was a situation where my wife is friends with Al-Azhar's estranged wife. Shout out to that sister. She's doing quite well. Really proud of her. She's done. The Most High God's really been just blessing her over the past year or so through all of this that she's had to endure. And it was a situation or whatever, and I'll spare the details. But around this time, right, and again, this is all before everything was exposed and made known to me, right, what was going on. I got a call from Deacon, either call or text, I forget which mode of communication was. And in light of what's been revealed over the last couple of weeks, I remember him reaching out to me and asking if my wife was friends with his wife. And I found it strange, right? Because it just so happened that it was a situation, right, between my wife, Al-Azhar's wife, and another woman, right? No sin involved, just for the record. But what that at the time I was like, this is kind of weird, given what's going on, right? And as I look back in hindsight, right? Hindsight is 2020. It makes sense. I've heard things like women's group messages and group chats are of the devil from leaders within Sakari. Why? Because niggas who are doing evil shit in their homes, being just literal pieces of shit, don't want their women, conversing with other women about the shit that they're doing, because it's going to what? Taint their name, taint their reputation. And when that happens, what happens? The money dries up. But again, niggas will say, oh, Ariella, he doesn't know anything about brotherly love and all types of nonsense, right? Stupid shit like that. Again, brotherly love is holding your brother accountable, right? And we're going to, again, dive into more scriptures and demonstrate that, right? So let's you got a scripture?
Because yeah, to the point of power dynamics, right? Because brothers, like you said, they really need to understand that, and that's reflected in the law, right? We got the law where it says, "Thou shalt not revile the judges," right? The king.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go in Deuteronomy, and there's specific laws for the king. He shall not add unto himself wives, right? Because it would turn his heart. He shall not multiply in the wives and horses, right? He shall. There's restrictions that's put on the king to keep him in check, right? So, again, we see that within our law it reflects power dynamics, right? So again, we need to understand this. Brothers want to, and again, that's speaking to all this grace, right? That people want to allow these kings, but you don't even understand. These are the same people that want to overly throw grace and all this. Is like, these are the same guys who will use scriptures like, oh, judge righteous judgment, right? Basically, being a hypocrite, being out here teaching, you can't be like, it's brothers out here that are speaking against that type of person, right? That type of brother in that position. But then when it comes to light on somebody in that position, now you want to throw grease, like overly throw. So it's hypocritical within our nation in itself, because we teach against these things, but then when it comes, we don't want to judge it.
Bro, it's insane. It really is insane. Like, I've been doing these type of lessons. We've been doing these type of lessons because I see what goes on in the Hebrew Israelite community, and I understand and see how outsiders feel about our community, right? With these scandals against leaders over the past couple of years, again, it's going to be more, family, right? There will be more, right? Because the stars are falling, right? I'm telling you, if it was a Christian pastor, right, revealed that a Christian pastor was doing X, Y, Z, and but Hebrew Israelites will be quick to condemn that Christian pastor, right? Regardless if that Christian pastor is like an Israelite or not, right? And it's like, it's again going back to what the brother Mayasha, it's hypocritical, right? Because it's when it's the Christian pastor, condemn, but when it's the camp leader, grace.
Right.
When it's your boy, you turn a blind eye, right? One thing that the sister, I'm not sure if I'm saying it, I think the sister's name is Mashara. Right. One thing that I believe she highlighted in her most recent video was how there were standards and bylaws and rules that were applied to all of the underlings, but was not applied to leadership. And that in itself is a symptom that is not unique to Sakari. It happens in all types of congregations, right? And what that shows is partiality in judgment, right? I'll give you an example. There was a brother in Sakari, Atlanta, some years ago. I knew of the brother. The brother had a wife, several kids. His wife was pregnant at the time. And this nigga left his wife and kids for another woman while his wife was pregnant. And it was made known to me, right? Because sisters confide in my wife. Of course, my wife tells me things. And I made it known to the leadership in Sakari, Atlanta, what was going on. I had let Officer Debak at the time, shout out to the good brother Debak and the brothers over at Ibrahim, right? I made it known to him. Of course, he made it known to Alzar and other leadership within Sakari, Atlanta. And rightfully so, right? They kicked the nigga out, right? They kicked the brother out of the camp. And they did it in front of everyone. Made him take off his Sakari shirt and everything at camp in front of everyone. Right? And no one would have batted an freaking eye. But when the ring of the Most High God's judgment comes along to the Grand Poobah himself, you got niggas still believing the lies that this nigga has been lying for over a year. He still to this day is lying, right? He still to this day has not given a single dime to his children. Nigga to this day will go and make a video about how niggas conspired against him to take his kids from him and this, that, and the third. When you barely took care of them kids outside of financially their entire lives. And when you literally turned off the phone of the woman with your children after you gave her permission to leave, you don't send a single dime since February of 2024, right? And then you'll get up on a video, right, to try to paint yourself as this great guy who took accountability. Bullshit. Right? And spread more lies, right? And play the fucking victim when you're the victimizer, right? Like, but niggas will scream, oh, brotherly love, oh, blase, blase, blah, grace. No, fuck all that. There's a saying, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? When it's a soldier who does something wrong, niggas bring down the hammer. But when it's the leader, niggas want to get quiet. Niggas want to, again, throw a smoke screen. Brotherly love. Buzzword to avoid accountability. And this is the problem. Again, I am an individual within the community. I see things that happen in the community. I see how people react, right? I see the think pieces and people's opinions because everyone shares their opinions on Facebook and social media and whatnot. And I just look at this and I'm like, we are sick. Our people who don't know the truth are sick, but there's a lot of brothers and sisters in the Hebrew Israelite community who are also sick and who are also not healed. And again, this goes back to the lesson we did 2 weeks ago. To be a good husband, you have to be a good man of integrity, right? And you have to be a healed man, right? The same would be true for sisters, right? And to be a good wife, you got to be a healed woman, right? You have to be a woman of integrity. You have to be a woman, right, who loves the Most High God, right? Loves God's word, and who loves herself. See, what happens a lot of times within this community is that brothers will prey on sisters who are new to the faith, and the Bible calls them newborn babes, right? And they prey on the naivete of these sisters for their benefit. And this has been shown, right? This has been on full display, and it's despicable, right? And people who make excuses for this type of behavior are just as despicable, if not even worse. And like I said, it's just it gets to a point where it's like, you know what, we truly need a drastic change within the community, right? We need healing as a community. We need healing as a people, right? And we need to have true love for one another, right? But let's get back into this 1 John 2.
1 John. Let me get it back up. 1 John from the top again. 1 John chapter 2. It says, "My little children, these things I write unto you, that ye sin not. And if any man sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Yahawashi, the righteous. And he is the propitiation for our sins, and not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world. And hereby we do know that we know him, if we keep his commandments."
This is the litmus test to determine whether or not you know God, right? If we keep his commandments. Read on.
But whoso keepeth his word, but whoso keepeth his word, in him verily is the love of God perfected. Hereby know we that we are in him. He that saith he abideth in him, ought himself also to walk, even as he walked.
Right. So in order to abide in Christ, you got to walk as Christ walked, right? And again, when I look at the Hebrew Israelite community, right, I look at it a lot of times as a good old boys club, right? As the He-Man woman haters club. That's how I surmise the Hebrew Israelite community at times. The He-Man woman haters club. A lot of brothers just hate women. Again, and going back to this whole thing about grace, right? It's always grace for the wolf, but it's never grace for the sheep, right? It's always grace for the brother, the leader, but it's not grace for the sister or the victim. And again, that's so evil, and it really boils my blood that this is how niggas act. And niggas wonder why, right? We're still here, right? Our job is to go out to the highways and hedges and to bid our people to the marriage. But what are we bidding them to? Right? What are we bidding them to? Are we bidding them to join the community, right? To be in the truth, right? For them to get abused, for them to get taken advantage of? No. That's not what we should be doing, right? We should be bidding our people to the marriage and welcoming them to a community, right, where we actually stand on the word, we actually follow it, actually put it into practice, and not just talk about it. Because I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of Hebrew Israelites that literally just, it's all talk, it's no walk. And it like I said, absolutely fascinating. It's absolutely just annoying, right? So this is how we know that we know God, keeping his commandments, right? Let's get 1 John chapter 5. Right. All praise to the Most High. Shout out to the sister Mashara. All praise to the Most High, sister.
Chapter 5 from the top.
Yep.
Okay. This is 1 John chapter 5 from the top. Whosoever believeth in Yahawashi is Hamashiach Salakia. Let me read it verbatim. Whosoever believeth in Yahawashi is Christ. Is whoever believeth that Hamashiach, oh my gosh, whoever believeth that Yahawashi is Hamashiach is born of God.
Uh-huh.
And everyone that loveth him that begat, and everyone that loveth him that begot loveth him also that is begotten of him.
Uh-huh.
By this we know that we love the children of God, when we love God and keep his commandments.
And keep his commandments. That's how we know that we love the children of God, right? So, for instance, right? Again, I had earlier today, someone sent me a video of, like I said, of a nigga in the community that I don't like at all. Right? I don't respect them at all. Because there's nothing respectable about him. Right? But guess what? The nigga's an Israelite. So I love him. I have to love him because God commanded me to love him. And he's a child of God, regardless of if he's a piece of shit or not. Right? And the person was like, oh, you need to send me. He sent me a scripture. He sent me Matthew 5. Yahawashi says, anyone who has who's angry with his brother without a cause is in danger of the judgment. And I definitely have causes to be angry with that person, right? Not to say that I walk around in life dwelling. Again, I don't think about this nigga, right? But it was again, this goes back to this romanticization of brotherly love and like this big kumbaya circle. Listen, there's people within this community that I do not like, I do not respect. But again, I love them. I don't hate them. I'm required to love them. It doesn't mean I'm going to be friends with them. It doesn't mean I'm going to call them up and shoot the shits with them. Right? And the person was like, oh, you need to make amends. Bro, leave me alone. My focus is on teaching God's word, keeping God's word. And that's it. I'm not here to be friends. I'm not here to be friends with everybody. Right?
You know, the flaw, one of the biggest flaws with that is a lot of Israelites that go around with that mindset. You know, they'll justify why they can feel that way towards you, though. You know, they'll hold this slight thing against you, all right? But they're mad that, you know, you can blast on a brother who clearly sinned. Like, no, because they want to show grace to that brother, but you're not showing this, right?
Unmerited grace.
Unmerited grace, because you're not doing it, because you're actually barking and shedding light. Now they're gonna hold.
Now they're gonna hold. They're like, oh,
this you're a bad brother.
You're listen. I told my wife earlier today. I said I've been getting blamed for shit my entire life. Right? I'm the oldest of three. Right? I got blamed for. Listen, if my brother or sister did something, I got blamed for it. Being the oldest. I'm like, the story of my life. Right? But it is what it is. Right? I really don't care. But again, loving your neighbor, loving the children of God, right, is not this romanticized nonsense that brothers have in their minds, right? We're gonna show what love is according to the law of God, right? Let's read on.
Con, verse 6.
Verse 3.
No, verse 3. Con. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments. His commandments are not grievous.
His commandments are not grievous. So to love God and to love neighbor is to keep God's commandments. Right? We went to what's that? It was 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, right? And in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 9, it says, now concerning brotherly love, you have no need for anyone to write to you, for you yourselves have been taught by God to love one another. So where did God teach us to love one another, right? Let's go to Leviticus 19
and
17. Let me go back to the KJV.
It's just crazy, though, because this is like, it's redundant at this point for a lot of the Israelites we're talking to right now, because you know this.
Okay. So let's bring that out.
Con, I'm going to start at verse 17 or?
Yeah, from 17.
Con, Leviticus 19 and 17. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him.
So let's slow that down and let's unpack this. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Heart is your mind. If I'm not allowed to hate my brother, that means I'm being told to what? Love my brother, right? It says, thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. Because if I see my brother sinning, I would be a bad brother if I did not rebuke them, did not correct them. Right? And here's the thing. You know, like, for instance, when you growing up, right? Let's say you got siblings or whatever, you old, you got some younger siblings, right? And you do something, right? And your parents whip your ass. They say you should know better. Right? It also reminds me of Yahawashi. He talks about how the servant that knew, the person that knew not, right? They're going to be beaten with stripes. They're going to be beaten with fewer stripes than the individual who knew what to do, knew the right thing, and did the wrong thing, right? They're going to be beaten with many stripes, right? Actually, let me just get that real quick.
I got a precept too to this.
Kind of those many stripes. Watch this, right? So when we're looking at individuals, right? Again, leaders. This is Luke 12 and 47. Was it 47? Yeah, 47. Let me read from verse 42, right? Here's this this word steward. We went over this word in our last lesson, right? On how to be a good husband. You have to be a good steward. You have to be a servant and a good steward to be a good husband, right? So and the Lord said, who then is that faithful and wise servant whom his Lord shall make ruler over his household to give him their portion of meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find doing so. Meaning, when he comes, he finds you doing the right thing, doing what you're supposed to, right? It says, of a truth, I say unto you, that he will make him ruler over all that he hath. But if that servant say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to beat the men servants and maidens, and to eat and drink and be drunken, the Lord of that servant will come in a day when he looketh not for him, at an hour when he is not aware, and will cut him in asunder, and will appoint him his portion with the unbeliever. So this is an individual who's a believer, but he's not doing the right thing. He's going to be rewarded, right, and given a portion with the unbelievers, right? Because the scripture tells us that it is impossible to please God without faith, right? Second Ezra is the 9th chapter, or is it the 9th chapter? It says all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness, right? Talks about how do not let the incredulity, the unbelief of those trouble you, right? So again, unbelievers, they're already done, right? They're finito, right? It says, and that servant which knew his Lord's will and prepared not himself, neither did according to his will, shall be beaten with many stripes. But he that knew not and did commit things worthy of stripes shall be beaten with few stripes. For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall be much required, and to whom men have committed much, of him they will ask the more. Right? When I went to a Catholic high school, and my principal, he will always say, to whom much is given, much is expected, right? And again, he got it from this. This is essentially what Yahawashi is saying, right? If you are given, right, the knowledge of self, you were given the knowledge of the truth, right? You were given position, you were given favor within the community, things of that nature. If you abuse that power, right, beating the men servants and the maidens, you're gonna get your portion with the unbelievers. That's what Yahawashi said. I didn't make this up, right? But here's the thing: because niggas love to throw around this smoke screen of brotherly love, they'll say, "Oh, well, grace for that brother." But what about grace to those maid servants and maidens that he was abusing, that he was taking advantage of? What about them? Again, problematic. Right? You said you had a precept?
Con. It's right along the same lines as Leviticus 19, right? And any wise rebuke thy neighbor. This is Proverbs 13 and 24 in the ESV. It says, whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him.
It's pretty self-explanatory, right? If as a father, right? Listen, my son is 9 months old. I'm already on him. Right? Hey, don't touch that. Hey, get down. I know he's a baby, right? He doesn't understand every word. He knows the word no. Listen, because I tell his little ass no, he start crying. So he know what's going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but that's love, right? Listen, I got my fair share of ass whoopings. Do my parents not love me? No, my parents love me because they were willing to whoop my ass, right? He that spareth his rod hateth his son, right? Sirach talks about he that something along the lines of he that disciplineth his son grieveth the enemy, right? Actually, let me find that real quick, right? So in like fashion as we, right? If you're a parent, right, you have to discipline your child, right? You love your child. You showing that discipline to your child is you having love. The same is true for your other relationships, right? For relationships that you have with brothers and sisters. If you see, again, I will always use this analogy, right? Because actually real quick, let me get Ezekiel chapter, what's it, 3:17. All right. This right here is an oldie but goodie camp precept, right? Oldie but goodie. Let me tell you, right?
Con.
Got knock the cobwebs off of this one.
You want the ESV or KJV?
Oh, you can do KJV.
Con. This is Ezekiel 3, verse 17.
Uh-huh.
It says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me. When I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, and thou givest him not warning, nor speakest to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life.
To what?
To save his life. the same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand.
Right. So again, like I said, this is an oldie but goodie camp precept, right? The Most High God set some brothers up to be watchmen, right? Shout out to the brothers of WFI, right? But every brother, right, who does the work, who goes up to the highways and hedges, right, as Yahawashi commanded to bid our people to the marriage, right? We're sent out there to be watchmen, to warn our people of what's to come. And we know how the game goes, right? You go out there, you bring it out, and for the most part, niggas ain't listening, right? However, Ezekiel's being told this, right? Ezekiel has a different a situation, right, than us. We have a situation where our people don't, for the most part, don't know that they're Israelites, or even if they even heard that black people are the Israelites, they just brushed it off and didn't really care because they grew up being a black man or a black woman or African American, right? As Tupac said, right? But Ezekiel is being sent to the house of Israel when the house of Israel knew who they were, right? Niggas were just not listening to the Most High God.
Yep.
Right? The niggas were doing all types of evil, worshiping other gods, right? Ezekiel's prophesying in Babylon, like by the rivers of Babylon. Here we are in Babylon, right? But again, it's different. But giving that warning is love. I always use this analogy when I would bring this out at camp. If I saw my brother or sister, right? If I saw an Israelite walking into the street and there's a big truck coming, big Mack truck, barreling down the road, at the very least, I should yell out to that person and warn them, hey, a truck is coming, right? Here's this brother or this sister dilly-dallying, right? Just perusing, strolling down thin highway. And here comes death, this big-ass Mack truck, about to run their ass over. Because the wages of sin is death. If I don't warn them or rebuke them, say, hey, get out of sin, get off the street called sin. You're going to die. If I don't do that, I just watch them die in that iniquity, in that sin, the Most High God's going to require that in my hands. Why? Because that's not love. Why would I just sit idly by as one of my own people is in the street about to get hit by a car? I'll give you another example. George Floyd. We live in a world where everyone's recording stuff, right? And I understand it because I understand the world that we live in, right? You see a brother, cops are clearly doing the wrong thing. They got their knee on someone's neck. They're saying that I can't breathe. You sitting there idly by is a sin, right? Watching another Israelite, right, life get ready to be taken, right? You cannot allow that to happen according to the law, right? You cannot stand against the blood of thy neighbor, as the scripture tells, right? So in this situation with Ezekiel, right, where God's commanded him, listen, warn the wicked, right? If he don't listen, he gonna die anyway. But if you don't warn him, it's on you, right? Again, because Ezekiel is basically given a big brother role, right? Again, I noticed also well being a big brother. Again, I got blamed for shit my entire life by my parents. Because again, I have a responsibility to look out for my brother and sister. We as Israelites have a responsibility to look out for each other. And if one of our own is doing wrong, like literally doing wrong, harming someone within the community, you have to stand up, right? The scriptures talk about, for instance, in the book of Psalms, the 82nd chapter, right? It talks about plead for the widow, for the fatherless, right? Judge righteous judgment. That's what you got to do, right? But again, in today's Hebrew Israelite community, niggas don't care about that, right? Niggas want to want to use scriptures out of context and say, he without sin cast the first stone. Ain't no one throwing stones at nobody. I ain't see a nigga get stoned yet. But when a nigga who's a leader gets exposed for being evil and doing fucked up shit, he without sin cast the first stone. Brotherhood's the final chamber. Brotherly love, smoke screen. That's all it is. Again, because the idea of brotherly love has been romanticized within the Hebrew Israelite community, right? And honestly, right, I'm gonna just say this: a lot of Hebrew Israelites in camps and out of camps, many have a cult-like mindset. And honestly, I think that's just the nature of black and brown folk, right? Listen, niggas to this day still think that Malachi Z. York is innocent.
Right.
You see, man, they're just trying to take down the black man. And again, I hate that, right? Because yes, there are black men that the system tries to just take down, right? That's a reality. But that gets cheapened when you use that in defense of evil niggas. A nigga like Malachi Z. York, who has the largest child pedophilia conviction in the history of the United States of America. Right? Now, we know what's going on with this whole Epstein stuff, right? They're even bigger pedophiles. But to say you see you're trying to take down a black man, that right there, it cheapens that. Because
You know what's
again,
crazy? The world, like you mentioned that Epstein, right? The Epstein case. And the world is, our people in the world are, when we're talking about this subject, we're talking about they're conducting themselves a lot better than Israelites are in our community. Because, if you have anything, look like you had anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein, everybody's blowing the trumpet, like you trying to hold everybody accountable. If your name is anywhere in anything to do with this man, everybody's bringing your name up. Listen, clear yourself, explain yourself. But that's how we supposed to be. And it's crazy that everybody, like the world, our people in the world doing that. But again, we can't do that here in our community.
listen, brother posted a precept earlier from First Corinthians saying, "Know not that the saints shall judge the world, and you can't judge the simplest matter." Right? That's the problem, right? What you got in the Hebrew Israelite community, you got too many chiefs and not enough Indians, right? You got too many chefs in the kitchen, right? A nigga who never went to culinary school, never worked in the restaurant, doesn't know how to cook, doesn't know how to dice a damn onion, right? Wants to be in the kitchen, right? Trying to cook up this meal. No, right? Nigga, you're not a judge. Shut up, right? I'll be honest. Everyone's opinion doesn't matter. I'll be quite frank. Everyone's opinion doesn't matter. However, right? Everyone has a voice and everyone has an experience and everyone has gone through their own shit or whatever, right? And what I'm seeing in the community is that people don't want sisters like the sister Mashara, like the sister Masala, right, to tell their story about their testimony of things that they've gone through, right? So again, we have to do a better job as a community, right? And truly hunker down and really understand what love is, right? So someone named Max asks, what is this and what's being advocated? What's being advocated is true love and accountability, right? That's what's being advocated. Right? That's what's being advocated. Accountability, true love and accountability. That's what's being advocated. Okay. So where were we? Let's go.
They're saying goofy shit. They're saying there's no Israelites in the black community except for the few that have Jewish relation.
I don't know what this person's talking about. Yeah. Matt time, please zip it. Right. So let's go back to Leviticus 19:17.
Con. Leviticus 19. All right, Leviticus 19:17 again. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him.
In any wise, right? If a nigga is barking, roaring because your ass is sinning, right? That's just because they're using a loud voice, right? Or using 4-letter words, or it don't feel good, right? That doesn't mean that person hates you, because love is correction, love is rebuke. And again, it says in any wise, right? Again, and it's all about balance, right? Proverbs 11:1 says that a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just wit is his delight, right? There's balance in life, right? Cyrex says that there's a rebuke that's not comely, right? Sometimes you got to rebuke or correct a nigga in a way that, it's not sweet and soft and, oh, let me hold your hand, right? That's not going to be the case all the time, right? So again, this is love, right? Read on.
Con. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am Yahawah.
Right. So again, Leviticus 19:17-18 shows us, again, as Paul's outlined in 1 Thessalonians 4, right? I have no need to talk to you about brotherly love, because God already told you how to love. And how did God tell us how to love? By rebuking our neighbor and not suffering sin upon them. Right? Listen, I texted Deacon, right, as all this shit fucking transpired, right? And I told him, I said, listen, bro, regardless of all the bullshit that you've done, right? Because again, he's done bullshit to me, right? He's painted narratives and all types of nonsense, right? Make video montages of me, all types of shit, right? I told him, listen, despite all the bullshit that you've done, bro, I pray you truly like heal and change and be a good father and husband. Like, be a better father and husband. I truly want that for you, right? And again, I feel like a lot of times people feel like because of how sometimes I may correct or rebuke or roar or bark, but then when it comes to sin, the way I do, a lot of people don't like. Some people don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. I don't give a damn if you like it or not, right? All I care about is doing what God says right here, right? Not suffering sin upon my people, right? Again, going back to the analogy, if I see a brother playing in the street, dilly-dallying in the street, and there's a truck coming, a car coming, right? I have to say something. Because if I don't and he dies, that blood's on my hand. And that's what it comes down to when it comes to this Hebrew Israelite community, right? We have to.
There should be the foundation of a lot of us. This should be our foundation right here. That Leviticus 19:17 should be all our foundation.
Yep. Actually, and here's why. To that point, right? Watch this, right? Yahawashi literally taught this.
Because a lot of this petty stuff that brothers be having grievances over, that's because that's not their foundation.
Yep. Right. So boom. Right. Matthew chapter 22, and I'll start from 34. Right, for the context. It says, but when the Pharisees had heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence, they were gathered together. Right. So Yahawashi was just cutting niggas up. Sadducees, shut up, niggas, because you niggas don't know shit. Right. Yahawashi had these niggas looking stupid. And the Pharisees don't really fuck with the Sadducees like that, right? And they're like, oh damn, he set these niggas up. All right, let us, you know what I mean, we know more than these niggas. Let's go try to trip him up, right? So verse 35, it says, then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him, and saying, right? These niggas are always trying to trip Yahawashi up to find a reason to kill him. This is what's going on, right? So it says, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Right? What's the most important commandment in the law? Right? Yahawashi said unto them, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, right? So the most important commandment is loving God. Second most important commandment is loving thy neighbor. Literally, when we look at Leviticus 19, 17 and 18, it says, thou shalt not avenge nor bear a grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. Basically, most I'm saying is, you better love your brother and sister because I said so.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Most High God is telling us. You better love the children of your people because I said so. Right? So, again, the second, it says, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets, right? So going back to 1 John chapter 5, right? This is how we know that we love the children of God when we love God and keep his commandments. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. So Yahawashi taught. The most important commandment is loving God. The second most important commandment is loving your neighbor. And on these two principles, these two laws, hang all the rest of the law and prophets, right? Because if I love God, I will keep the Sabbath. I will keep the high holy days, right? I will pay him what I owe him, right? One of the laws is that we're supposed to pay a half shekel for every male as a temple tax to maintain the house of the Lord. Now, obviously, we don't have a temple, right? Ain't no temple tax being had because there ain't no temple, right? However, you loving God, you're going to pay that temple tax, right? You loving God, you're going to show up 3 times a year as he told you, and you're not going to show empty-handed, right? If you love your neighbor, you're not going to steal from him. You're not going to try to sleep with his wife, right? If you love your neighbor, right, you're not going to murder him, right? Everything else hinges on you loving God and loving neighbor, right? So, listen, a lot of times we'll be out, right, doing the work. We'll have conversations with Christians, right? The Christians talk about love. Oh, I love. You don't love me. You don't love me. You don't love yourself. You don't love God. Why? Because you don't keep the commandments. I cannot say that I love anyone, any Israelite, if I'm not keeping the commandments. Because if I'm willing to steal from an Israelite, that's not love. If I'm willing to murder an Israelite, that's not love. If I'm willing to do anything, right, that the law tells you not to do, that's not love. Love is keeping God's commandments.
It's that simple.
It's just that simple, right? And brotherly love is that. Brotherly love is correcting, because listen, we all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, right? We are striving towards perfection, right? Right? We are, as we're seeking to be justified by Yahawashi's sacrifice, right? We are trying to walk a straight and narrow, right? And to live like him and not sin, right? That should be everyone's intent if you claim to be it in the truth, right? And as John said in 1 John chapter 2, right? My little children, all right, that you sin not. But if any man sin, we have an advocate with the Father, right? And again, that's not, oh, if any man just commits adultery, just
Right.
if anyone just kills somebody, just murdered someone, or you're just selling drugs, you're over here smoking weed, which is sorcery and witchcraft, right? Sins unto death. That's not what it's talking about. Again, So sometimes we fall, right? The Bible says a righteous man falleth 7 times, but he gets back up, right? There's nuance there. But in the Hebrew Israelite community, far too often, people just completely say, screw nuance. What does that word even mean? Because you tell certain nigga, oh, there's nuance, right? They think you're saying a nuisance. Oh, they're talking about something else. No, nigga, like there's nuances in life, right? There's balance, right? Again, everything is not merited to give grace or mercy to, right? Because like again, I go back to this past year, right? Last year when everything came out about the alligator, right? And it was like Matthew 18, right? In Matthew 23, Yahawashi talked about how the Pharisees they disregarded the weightier matters, right? Of the law, right? So Matthew 23 and 23. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law. What's the first thing? Judgment, then mercy, then faith. Those are the 3 things that he said. These are the weightier matters of the law. Yeah, you should be paying tithes, right? But what's more important than you paying tithes, what's more weightier, is you doing righteous judgment, right? Showing mercy when merited, in faith. How could you show mercy if you don't judge the situation properly? You can't show mercy and can't show grace if you're not willing to judge.
Like not judging is not showing mercy. It like mercy is it's a judgment after the judgment, right? It's how you gauge, your judgment that you're gonna give. Whether something, what the matter warrants, right? But with this captivity, right, this world, and this is why we have a romanticized, that this romanticized brotherly love thing, because this world, has pretty much conditioned our people, first and foremost, Stockholm syndrome, right? It's a level of showing compassion that actually interferes with their actual boundaries that are really in their mind, right? So like I said Stockholm syndrome. Why? Because you're showing compassion to someone, right, who's actually wronging you, right, or wronging someone you love. Christianity, right? Christianity tells us, even like I said, this world period tells us, a good person is someone who's technically obsessively compassionate, right? They're just always trying to find the good in someone. That's why you got people who's trying to find out the minds of serial killers, find out the mind, trying to label these people mentally ill and all these type of things, is because people are obsessively showing compassion.
That's not warranted.
That's not warranted.
Listen, a serial killer, the Bible says if you murder someone, you should be put to death. The Bible says if you grape a woman, you should be put to death.
But this world says,
no, throw them in jail.
Yeah.
Because again, here's the thing, if God forbid, right, let's say a brother literally catches a man raping a woman and he kills that man, depending on the state and the prosecutor, his ass might go to jail. I just saw a video the other day where it was an amusement park.
A sister went to jail for killing a man who was raping her.
Right? Because we don't live in a just world, right? I saw a video the other day where a brother was at an amusement park with his kid, and some guy, right? There was a guy on lookout, and a guy trying to give coerce his son, right, $100 to come into the bathroom with him, right? And Jake whooped his ass, right? Depending on the jurisdiction, his ass could possibly go to jail for some shit like that. Oh, battery and assault, right? The brother whose son got killed, right? And he went and did he end up killing the cop?
Killed the cop,
right? Bravo to that brother, right? He said, "Listen, well, right? Because that's right there is righteous. But again, we live in a world that's unrighteous, right? But here we are as Hebrew Israelites who, again, we claim to be in the truth being God's laws, willing to again, not truly show love, but show this romanticized version of love. And again, that's not love, right? Shout out to Fab and Wayne. They had a song called "That's Not Love." Right? What brothers do within this community, right? And this sentiment of let's grace for some of the most heinous things is just insanity. And I, for one, will not. I will not just sit by and be quiet when shit like that happens. I just can't do it. Right? I refuse to do that. I refuse to go along with the rest of you niggas who don't know better, who don't know shit. Right? Any precepts?
No, we got it. We got the point across.
No praises. All right. Any questions, family? Any questions on the topic? Not on the topic? You can ask your questions in the chat. Right. Again, we gotta show true love, right? We gotta, again, and brotherly love and true love is not everyone being kumbaya. It's just unrealistic, right? Again, let's go back to the word romanticization, right? Let's define it again. It's the act of viewing or portraying someone or something. So what's the something? The truth, brotherly love, right? The Hebrew Israelite community, right? People want to portray, right, and want to romanticize and idealize brotherly love, right? And what it boils down to is niggas not holding niggas accountable, right? Because let's go back to Sakari, right?
It's just all
you had the number one. You had the number one being a cup peg buying, getting pegged ass nigga who slept with his wife's sister, which is fornication, sin punishable by death. You had the number two being abusive to his wife, right? Also purchasing prostitutes. None of that got exposed, right? You had the number three, allegedly, was also beating his wife. But according to Sakari's bylaws, any domestic violence situation, right? Suspension. Mayash, was Deacon ever suspended? Was Cap ever suspended? Nope. Right? But you had a brother, a sergeant. He had a DV situation. And honestly, I think he was justified in the situation where his ex-wife literally
grabbed his yeah.
Right? I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something. If anybody had my stones in their hand and was squeezing them, I will do anything to get them off of me. Right? But guess what? It's a show. He got addressed publicly.
Yeah.
He got addressed publicly.
Yeah.
But none of the shit that the top 3 niggas was doing got addressed publicly. And now it's getting exposed. And now it's been getting exposed over the last couple of years. Right? And you got niggas with the pom-poms, all the fanboys, right? Got their pom-poms out. Grace, mercy, brotherly love. Ah, shut up. Please, shut up. I'm telling you, man, again, the reason why I've been addressing these situations like this, right, in this manner, is because, again, I see what happens within the Hebrew Israelite community, right, and it's not good, right? It's not good at all. And there needs to be a change within the community, right? I've been seeing posts lately about, again, if you guys anyone got any questions, put your questions in the chat, right? Listen, rules for thee,
Right,
not
sis.
Listen, you hit the nail on the head with that one, right? I've been seeing some sentiments from different brothers in the community, brothers that I have a great deal of respect for. Listen, the Hebrew Israelite community is viewed in a certain light by outsiders looking in, right? Remember when Drewski did that skit and you had a bunch of niggas with their panties in a bunch, all upset?
Mm-hmm.
Guys, the shit was fucking funny as hell. But if we have a problem with that, then we need to change the narrative. Let me tell you something. There's been so many times that we've been out, right, at camp, and we've had conversations with people, and they say, wow, I've seen Hebrew Israelites before. I've seen some brothers over on Broad Street, or these brothers over here, and they was just yelling and this and that and blah, 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 blah. But you guys aren't like that, right? And they received the message, right? See, I remember when I was always a smart ass, right, in school and whatnot. And I remember, a teacher of my mom said to me, "You catch more bees with honey than with vinegar." And I said, "I don't want to catch bees. Bees sting," right? Just being a smart ass, right? But truly, there is that saying is true. You catch more bees with honey. If our goal is to bid our people to the marriage, and our people are the bees, right? Sometimes we need to catch them with honey, right? And not straight vinegar, right? So our approach in fishing has to be, listen, it got to change, right? You got to be able to adapt, right?
Yeah.
I haven't been able to go fishing this year yet since my son was born, right? But one thing I learned as I've gotten to fishing over the last year or so, depending on the time of day, right? Those bass, right? You freshwater fishing, those bass in the morning time, they want some top water, right? So you're gonna throw a frog, right? Maybe in the evening, right? You might throw a swim jig or a spinner bait, right? You gotta throw different bait to catch fish at different times and different seasons, right? When you're coming into the fall, right, you're gonna change your approach, right? In the spring, when they're spawning, you're gonna change your approach, right? You're gonna change where you fish. So that's important that you think about. All right, my goal is to catch fish, is to reel fish in, right, so that my family can eat. But when it comes to the truth, I'm trying to catch fish, right, to bring them on board, right, so I can bid them to the marriage, so that the wedding feast is filled and everyone can eat, right? That's important, right? So would it not be counterproductive to, I don't know, pollute the water that you're trying to fish in? That would be very counterproductive. But Hebrew Israelites, a lot of us, some of us don't realize that some of the tactics that brothers were doing in the 80s and the 70s and whatnot, in the 90s, that ain't gonna work, right? Especially in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
So that's super important, right? We gotta change the narrative.
And here's the thing, right? Because Yahawashi said, the world hated YAHAWAH, right, before it hated us, right? Right, but it's because of righteousness. So if they hate us for righteousness' sake, why give them? Now you want to give them ammo to hate us for something that's justified to hating us for? So I'm saying, like, we have these things that they're looking at us, in bad light of, but it's like, but you can't blame them for not hating. Like, we could blame them for hating the truth. You can't blame them for hating that, we got brothers in this thing that's just beating on sisters, right? Just foul hypocrites. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, like, at the end of the day, man, that's just what it is. Let the only thing they hate us for is walking this walk truly.
Yeah, what Paul said, do I become the enemy because I called you the truth? And I bet niggas did absolutely nothing about it, right? But brotherly love. Yeah, bro, don't do that. You shouldn't do that. But where's the real accountability? Right? Again, love is accountability, right? In any type of relationship, right? Husband, wife, brother, sister, brother, sister. Like, accountability is love, right? I watch Country Wayne skits, right? They're funny, they're entertaining, and it just allows you to see the minds of how a lot of our people think, right? And one of the storylines, right, you have this woman, her sister, right? They're not real sisters, but they were both in foster care, right? They grew up together, they're sisters, right? And the one sister is engaged to a brother, but she's cheating on him. She's actively cheating on him, right? And they were getting into like they had like a misunderstanding, and they were kind of beefing, whatever. And she's venting to her sister. Mind you, her sister knows that she's cheating on her fiance, and the sister who's engaged is blaming the man for not being decisive and not wanting to have a child with her, and this, that, and the third. And it's not gonna work, and blah blah blah, but this, that. And the sister's like, I'm sick of it. Like, and she just told her, read her rights and told her what it is. Like, oh, you think it's not gonna work because of XYZ, or is it because you've been cheating on the nigga for the last 6 months? And she was just like, oh my gosh, just shocked, like, how dare you tell me the truth? But that's what Hebrew Israelites do. That's what Hebrew Israelites will do. Wild shit, and then get mad when you call them out for it. Because at the end of the day, Black, Hispanic, and Native American people, right, here in the Western Hemisphere, here in America, right, when you're sick, right, we don't have a king, right, we don't have God's laws written in our inward parts, right. And again, because brotherly love has been romanticized, right, that is an excuse for brothers to not take accountability, to not hold each other accountable, and accept being held accountable. Right? Listen, all the things that was taught to us while we were in Sakari, right? About judging righteous judgment and you know, no one's bigger than the program and things of that nature, right? Those things were taught to us. Those things were instilled in us. But when it was time for the people who were teaching those things to be shown, hey, you're not bigger than the program, right? To be shown that, hey, we're judging this righteously and you're evil and you're wrong, right? And you've been hiding this for years. Now it's, oh, niggas ain't shit. Oh, niggas is coming against me. Oh, it's a grand conspiracy. No, nigga. It was never a conspiracy, right? What's the true conspiracy is the fact that niggas was hiding evil sins amongst each other while holding the subordinates to a higher standard than themselves. You cannot hold people who are lower than you in rank to a higher standard than you hold yourself to. You just cannot do it. Because when you do so, you'll be shown and proven to be a hypocrite. And the hypocrite cannot stand in the sight of the Most High God. Right? Any other questions, family? Any questions before we wrap? Shalawam, Brother Izzy. All right, no questions. All right, family. With that, I want to give all praises, all glory, and all honor to the Most High God, whose name is Yahawah. Of course, we do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach, Yahawashi, who the world annually calls Jesus Christ. Pray, brothers and sisters, will edify till next time. Shalawam.
Shalom. Shalom, family.